Alright, now unmuted for like 5 seconds of silence. Okay.
All
That's
right.
just much easier. Yeah. Shit, I'm trying to remember Bixby's voice. I was gonna do an opening with Bixby's voice. Shit, my mind just blanked. Holy fuck.
How dare you? You were doing it all at
I
work.
know, but that's because I was listening to it in the audiobook at the time. Great. Oh my god, holy shit.
Tree Cynic says you need to slot a mine card.
I do need a slot, yeah. Hello. Oh my god. Okay, you know what? I give up. Never doing this again. Nope. Alright. Hey, welcome everybody to the World of Dragons podcast. The podcast where Dragon and his rider get together to discover, review, and discuss dragon-related material, content. Fuck. I already fucked this up. I'm so, out of it. Dragon-related media and literature, including but not limited to books, movies, and TV shows, to help you, dragon fans, discover the next dragon-centric universe that you want to visit, because fantasy is better than reality.
Absolutely. That should be our tagline.
That could, when we start printing shirts, that'll be the tagline.
Yeah.
I am your host, Ray, and with me here is...
And I am Bantam.
Hey, you get to introduce yourself.
Yay! So, this week, we are going to be doing All the Skills by Honor Ray. And I just wanted to call attention to the fact that, we do get a lot of suggestions and we love them. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. But this was a lucky find. Ray wanted a break from Dragon books and went, a card-based lit RPG. I just want to read that because it's what I like, and who cares if it doesn't have dragons in it?
Guess what? It's got dragons in it. So yeah, the back cover, at least the audible version of the back cover, I don't know if it's the exact same as the print version, mentions dragons once. They're not by name. It doesn't mention that they're dragon riders or that their kingdom lives on their fucking back or anything. It just says, oh, he got his card from a dragon, and that's it. There's no dragon on the cover. There's you looking at this, if you're just Barnes & Noble, pick it up, look it over, and neat. You'd never know how big a deal the dragons are in this book, which is why it's such an amazingly lucky find on my part.
And not to spoil the results of my a couple people have approached me about my ranking list. I loved this book. I not only finished in record time, but I was able to do 2 books in that time. So
he finished before me.
So to be able to go from struggling to read a book and doing it at the last minute to crunching through 2 books as fast as humanly possible. And I even told Ray, I was like, the third book is out, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, give it to me. And he's like, no, it might scar or paint your perceptions. You might start getting details mixed up. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so I'm very excited to do this episode because it means I can start on book 3.
Yeah, I asked him, hey, you finished on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm like, if you want, I'll give you book 3 if you don't think it will affect your review of book 1 and 2 when we record the episode. He's like, nope, don't trust it.
Yeah, well, the other problem is that I was so worried that I would remember a detail and be like, well, blah 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 blah, and you'd be like, that didn't happen, and then I'd be like, oh, I spoiled it for you. Also, I'm incapable of hiding my excitement, and the moment something happens and something, I'm like, Ray, oh my god. So
yeah, we got to make sure that I'm ahead of him, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're on a roll finding books that Bantam enjoys. So it was only a matter of time. Alright, so. I don't know why my brain's not working right now. Bantam, you're going to have to drive my brain. Kaput. I was going to do the opening. I'm probably going to cut out that bit at the beginning just because it's 2 minutes of a lot of nothing. So for people who weren't there for the live recording, I tried to do a cold open doing the voice of one of the characters that shows up later on, just to be funny. Doing the voice that the narrator does for it, at least anyway. and completely did absolutely not work at all. And you know what? Probably for the best, because I would have maybe spoiled the character by doing the opening.
That's true. Yeah.
So yeah,
Um, I
I'll
also
do it for the next episode when we do book 3, because people already know about him at that point.
yeah. Also, tiny bit of dragon news. So for those unaware of our current outlook on like schedule, uh, the next episode, which we'll reiterate at the end, but our next episode is going to be book 3 of this series,
Hmm.
and then after that is going to be Dragon Island, which Ray and I
It's
were
a
both
video game.
Ray and I were both excited for, but we'll get into that eventually. Um, were being the operative word. Uh,
Spoiler alert, it's a very bad game.
It's a very bad game. But the bit of news that I have is that because I originally was the social media manager for the podcast, um, I decided to reach out to Luke Daniels, the narrator for these books, because one of the things about audiobooks is that depending on the narrator, um, I can either really hate or really enjoy the book. And hold on one sec. Had to clear my throat. Uh, Luke Daniels did such an amazing job with his voices and his narration of this book that I reached out to him to ask if he would be willing to do an interview for the podcast. He said absolutely. He asked when would be the best time. So I sent back an email saying we would need that information from him because you know, it's kind of at his leisure. Want to make sure I fit into his schedule, but yeah, hopefully if it all works out, I'll be able to do a special episode where we interview an audiobook narrator so that those who have written books of their own can get a little bit more insight on their side of
Yeah,
things.
a shocking amount of little indie authors in our Discord.
Yeah.
Considering how small and quaint and homely our Discord currently is.
Yeah. So look forward to that. Hopefully.
Yeah, we're currently playing emo tag, so it's coming, but we don't really know when yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the only Dragon news we have. That and the fact that Dragon Island was in fact released. We'll get to it eventually, but oh my god, what a disappointment that was.
The other Dragon news is that there's a movie on Netflix called Damsel that I do want to do for the podcast. It does have a dragon. It is an intelligent dragon. It it's probably about 30% of the plot, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's kind of semi-unfortunate the timing. Like 4 things came out at the same time. Well, it's like book 3 of all the skills just came out like I think a week ago.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think in a week from now, as of recording, book 4 from my favorite erotic xenofiction. That's getting released, so I'm gonna have to try to finish that on my own time too, because I want to see how that ends. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff coming out right now, which is surprising.
Feel free to cut this, Ray, but I did reach out to the developer for Dragon Island asking for review copies for the podcast, and I got left on red. So kind of glad that it worked out that way, because I'm going to be family sharing it off of Ray's purchase, because I do not want to waste $15 on what I am finding out is essentially a trash fire of a game. So
yeah, I guess I'll get into like nitty gritties on that episode, but for anyone listening that is like thinking about the game right now, my problems with it are translation errors abound. There's a lot of scripting and trigger errors in the sense that I told character A some information that I had on character B before I actually had that information. Like one of the triggers was like not working, so it kind of destroyed the order of events there. And then just it really wants to be an erotic game. It really, really wants to be. These sprites have like big ass fucking bulges on them, and your main character daydreams about some certain encounters he wishes he could have like super early on upon meeting some of these characters. So it really wants to be an adult game, but then there's no delivery. It's just the biggest cock tease in the universe, which is like, what the fuck are you doing? which is fine if it had a good story to make up for it, but the story is also freaking bonkers crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not getting into that right now. That's later.
But yeah,
So
that's it for Dragon News.
yeah, so Bantam,
Yes.
you liked this book.
I
Admit it.
love this
Yeah.
book. Uh,
Without spoiling it, what did you love so much about it? Like you, somebody who normally hates books, and I have to like drag you by your tail to get you to read them. What about this one made you just like it so much, and looking forward to reading the third one?
all right. So might kind of disgust Ray to find this out, but I love power fantasy books, and the fact that this book's world revolves around magic in the form of trading cards, where someone can have a common or uncommon, rare, legendary, mythic, whatever. Um, the fact that someone could have like a common card that shoots like a fire bolt at somebody, right? Uh, and getting an uncommon card is like, whoa, cool, an uncommon. Uh, the fact that the main character just starts his journey with a legendary card that essentially turns him into uh, the biggest fucking like I win at everything, haha, fuck you, um, made me happy. It made me interested in his story because, you know, to me, I like the power fantasy. I don't necessarily like. We had an author interview many episodes ago, where he said that one of the key things about writing is to abuse your main character. I don't agree with that. It actually stresses me out, and I don't like reading it. To have
There's the different types of stories for different people. Some people do enjoy the struggle, and they like seeing the main character beat up a bit because it makes the triumph later on so much better. Kind of like how in like Souls games, to use a video game example. Hold on. Oh my gosh. Ah. Kind of like how in Souls games, the fact that the bosses are really, really hard and the combat's very unforgiving makes the eventual victory that much sweeter. Then there's people like us, you and me both, that actually just enjoy power fantasies. We do not want the struggle. We struggle enough in real life that we just want to have a story where we can just be strong, nothing can stop us, we're immediately better than everybody else in these universes that we're put into.
yeah.
And it's just different people like different things.
Yeah. So I liked the fact that for most people in this universe, using the firebolt analogy again, the more you use it, the slightly better it gets in the form of reduced mana costs, or you can do it more times per day. Arthur's card, which we'll get into later, but is what was that?
That was me coughing.
Oh, is literally a card that improves his skills. Anything, walking upstairs, tumbling, hiding, sneaking. All of these things are skills. Anything that you could think of as a skill, he can get better at it. And eventually, with this one card alone, I feel like he could fucking break the world.
Well, not with that one card alone. Like the first example you gave, walking upstairs, that's not a skill. That falls underneath that card's purveyance.
Oh, whatever.
Because that's a body trait. It's a physical thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But stuff like cooking, stealth, card shuffling. So he uses that with like gambling, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. It the other thing I liked about this is that something that has so in book two they run afoul of my anger with lit RPGs, but the other thing is that they don't constantly bring up the character sheet in the
Oh
book,
yeah.
so you don't have the narrator constantly reading off stats. The narrator says, "Hey, you gained a skill in this," and then it moves on. In book two, there's only one part where I have a huge fucking problem with the way the book handles this, but I don't know. I don't know what it is I loved so much about this book, but I really did.
If you don't know, there's probably a combination of the writing style, the story itself, the
And
world, the
the
characters.
narrator.
It's probably a little bit of everything.
And the narrator.
Yeah.
Because I've heard way too many narrators try to do girl voices, and they just sound like they're making fun of them, and it kind of pulls me out. The other thing is that spoiler alert for anyone. Well, not really spoiler, but I tend to listen to things in my daily life every day at faster speeds than normal. I watch YouTube videos at 1.5, and so when I don't do that, it typically sounds like somebody's talking like this, and it gets really aggravating to me. So I ended up listening to this book at 1.5, and for some books that's not possible. I don't recall specific examples, but there were audiobooks that I've done on this podcast where I had to listen to it at normal speed because the moment I sped it up even a little, I couldn't understand the narrator because they were mumble mouthing. Luke Daniels did a really good job enunciating that even on super high speeds, I was able to understand every word he said. And yes, I started off book 1 on ×2 speed, and I could understand everything he said.
Still hurts my soul, but I'm
I
glad
know
you could at least
they
handle it.
they didn't dwell on any descriptors. Everything again, just like the last book we read, everything was described to the perfect level of detail without getting excessive, which allowed more breathing room for the actual plot. So yeah.
All right, so that's kind of a very brief, all over the place review of everything. We usually go through things piecemeal. So I guess I'll just go back to my little bullet list. We'll kind of salvage the ordering of this. Not like you did anything wrong, kind of salvage, but just like it broke the order in my head, so
Yeah.
I'm brain farting all over the place now. Really fast. So I guess to comment on the quality, you really liked the narrator because he did his voices very well, and his pacing was really good on how he read stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You also enjoyed the writing style because it didn't bash you over the head with the little RPG stuff too much like other times the books do it. Where
Yeah.
I'll admit with you, there are books every now and then where I swear to God they're trying to pad it with their stat sheet.
Yep.
Like, they wrote a 250-page book, but they can add 20 more pages by having the stat sheet every other chapter. Like, it does get a little excessive sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't remember what book it was, but I remember looking at one, or you told me about one, I don't remember, but I remember that at the end of the chapter, they summarize his skills. And it was like, all right, I don't need to know at the end of every fucking chapter that nothing changed, or that he got one more point in stamina, or whatever. It's like, dude, you don't need this at the back of every fucking chapter.
Yeah, I can't remember what book that was. But yeah, also, the book didn't have a whole lot of, let's call them fantasy words.
Oh,
Which is one of
yeah.
Narrative's biggest gripes.
Yep.
Not once did they mention couchant. Or did they do it
No,
once?
they mentioned Segent twice. Oh
Oh, they
no,
did?
no, that was the other book. See,
That was the other book. Okay.
this is one of the problems with me in books, though, is that everything kind of blends together. I'm thinking of Scales of Fate, not this one. Yeah, they didn't use any fantasy stupid terms.
Yeah. There were no made up words for certain aspects of the world, kind of like how Age of Fire used the word see and saw to be the front and back claws of the dragon, or how Mating Flight had the
Everything.
the wefo and the hakucho for the different parts of the soul or whatever.
Yeah.
This book didn't have any of that, so it's a very easy read. Like there is no, I think maybe only one or two words in the entirety of the two books that I have to like stop and look up, but even those ones were easy to pick up based off context. So it's very nicely written, I guess is the best way I can say it.
Yeah. It's very reader friendly.
Very accessible. Reader friendly and accessible. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Oh, there's my lizard blonking around in the background. Alright, to go on to the believability or the verisimilitude of the story in the world. I felt like it fit really well. So in this world, this was a world with magic, and being a lit RPG, it has really weird stuff like stats and skills and all that, right? Like strength score, 20 is average, you have 17, whatever, right? It ties all of that to cards, which is why they call this a deck building lit RPG. So in this world, people have spaces in their heart to hold the magic, so they call it the heart deck. And the idea is when you get a card that says, like, this card gives you the ability to control fresh water up to 1 liter, right? It's a very weak power, but if you put that card into your heart, it like absorbs into your body, and you now have that power. All the magic is tied to cards. And the cards come in different tiers: to start at the beginning: common, uncommon, rare, legendary, and then mythic. I will say I'm very upset there's not an epic tier between rare and legendary, just because most card games that I play on the computer tend to have an epic tier between legendary and rare, so that's a little weird to me. But the tiers come in different power. For example, the example I gave, you can control fresh water up to 1 liter, would be like a common power, because uncommon would be like you can control water, doesn't matter if it's fresh or salt, so less of a restriction. Rare would have a larger size category, like you can control. I can't think of like.
No, the best way to say it would be common. You could control basically like a liter of water, but it's restricted to fresh or salt. Uncommon is no restriction up to like 20 gallons. Rare would be that you can control up to, like a swimming pool size of water of any temperature or whatever. And then legendary would be you could move lakes and rivers around at your whim.
Yeah.
Mythic is not really described in the book. Mythics exist, but the only ones who have mythic cards are royalty, or they're literal kings.
The king. Yeah.
And they don't typically use their cards, so at least not yet.
We
don't really know
stick of it yet.
like a mythic card could literally probably evaporate an entire planet if they wanted. I don't. Mythics are basically god tier cards that once you have them, you're king. That's it.
Yeah. The ranking of the cards also has to do with how common they are. Obviously, like there's only maybe like 7 mythic cards in existence or whatever, right? We don't have a number. That's just off the top of my head, which means that the legendary cards and even some of the rare cards are only ever in the hands of nobility, like dukes and barons, princes, that kind of stuff. So we do have a kind of feudal fantasy kind of setting where a lot of the wealth is tied into these cards that give you superhuman powers.
Yeah.
That is to say that this whole like explanation of how the world's magic system works is to say that first of all, me loving card games, I really love how this magic system works. But then aside from just loving it in general, because hooray cards, it felt like it made sense. Like they kind of built the magic into their economy and everything with their class system and who's able to do what jobs. Like farmers are trying to get common cards that can affect the earth and soil, or plants, or water, or body enhancement, so they're stronger or they have more stamina or whatever. And then people who can use cards or have access to cards that affect their speed or whatever would become couriers and messengers. Anyone with combat related powers tends to get let's just say drafted into the military, basically, because there is a large world threatening entity, let's call it, called the Scourge, which, if you're familiar with StarCraft, just think of the Zerg, I guess.
Yeah, they're little black creatures with little beady red eyes, and they eat life. So everywhere they walk, plants die, the ground turns to ash, and they will seek out living creatures, tear them apart, and try to devour the cards directly out of their heart. And in so doing, they become more empowered. So the longer a Scourge is left unattended, the worse it will become.
Yeah. Since this is a podcast for and about dragons, to kind of explain to you how the dragons fit into this, because they are very hidden. Like I said, they're not really on the cover, front or back at all. The dragons, there are a lot of dragons. They are very prevalent. They are very intelligent. A big asterisk there. But they are the antithesis of the Scourge. They are fighting the Scourge, and they have teamed up with humans, so this is a dragon rider story. And the dragons are also like the primal, or not primal, primary source of magic. Like when a dragon is born, it is born with a heart in its core, like its very nature of its being.
You mean a card?
And the way... Did I say card?
You said heart in its core.
Oh, whatever. Okay, yeah. A
A
card in
card
its
in its
core.
heart.
Card in its... Whatever. Oh my god. Words. How?
When a dragon is born, its core being is its own card.
Yes. And it binds with a rider by that rider having not a matching card, but a...
Similar card of the same rank. So, for
Yeah.
example, if it was an Earth Dragon, then your best chance to bind with it would to also have an Earth card.
Yeah. Any card that would have a good synergy with it, so it doesn't necessarily need to be another Earth card. It could be something that... I don't know. I can't think of an example because I haven't sat down and mapped out this magic system. But the point is, you need to have a synergistic card with it, and then you combine with it by linking your two cards together.
And
but when a dragon dies, I did it again. When a dragon dies, the card that makes up its core is left behind. So that's how new cards come into the world.
Yeah. And on top of that...
So they are the birthers of magic.
On top of... And now there is another way cards can come into the world, and that's with the Scourgelings. When the Scourgelings are erupt from the ground, they are, I guess you could say, born with shards. And shards are pieces of cards where if you collect enough of them, you can assemble them into a full card. So there are things called eruptions that happen across the land where a volcano of dirt rises up out of the ground and Scourgelings come out. And whenever that happens, the dragon riders will all rush to the site to mass slaughter Scourgelings, for the primary reason of protecting the land, but the secondary reason of harvesting cards and shards and protecting people. So those are the two ways that new cards can come into existence, either through assembling a new card from shards, which at that point the card that is created kind of seems to have a loose basis on what you were hoping for. So if you assemble a card and you're really hoping to be like a circus performer, you might get a juggling card. It's not always guaranteed, but
no, it's not even close to guaranteed. That becomes a plot point later on. It's not guaranteed at all.
Yeah. But it does seem to... everyone seems to believe that if you hope and pray hard enough that you might get something you like.
I mean, it could also just be
wishful thinking,
rumor, whatever, old wives' tale kind of deal.
Yeah.
This is technically a very small spoiler, but I feel like it's worth sharing just because, again, people who listen to this podcast are doing it for the dragons. Right? So the dragons take a very big backseat in the first book. They are there, and the ones that show up are wonderful. I love them, but they are very, very minor for the first book. For the second book, they also are kind of minor, but they do have a much more prevalent position, because a lot of the plot of the second book revolves around a couple of them. But then the dragon that the main character eventually gets, it's kind of obvious, you can tell because it's a dragon rider story. Of course he's going to get a dragon. It doesn't show up until 75% of the way through the second book.
Yeah, I looked...
It takes a while to get there, but once it's there, it's worth it. It's amazing.
It is absolutely worth it.
We're looking forward to the third book because he's going to be there the whole time now, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. And some of you may know Ray, talk to him outside the podcast or whatever. Ray told me once you finally get to this dragon, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's you. And yeah, it is very much Ray.
That's why I was going to do his voice for the open, but we'll do it for next episode.
Yeah.
I'll have to practice it somewhere.
Oh, yeah. And some of the voice that the narrator did for this dragon, bravo, because Ray imitated it a couple times. And
my throat was sore by the end of the night.
His throat was sore.
So either he can do it easier than I can, or he just, I don't know, has calluses on his throat. I don't know. Play the guitar enough, you get calluses on your fingers. Do enough voice acting, you get calluses on your throat. But yeah. Next section of review would be on the dream fulfillment. Is this book dragony enough, basically? Eventually, yes.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually, yes.
I think if I could really pinpoint the one reason why I really liked this book, I think it was the anticipation. The South Park joke. Don't worry, the dragons are coming. It's like the first book kind of dragged on, but I got enough. I got investment enough in the main character's story to be like, all right, yeah, I'll come with you. I'll
Yeah,
I'll,
and the
I'll
thing is,
follow
it's like
along.
none of the characters are unlikable. Like even the ones that are meant to be antagonistic, it's like, I don't like what you're doing, but I get it, kind
Yeah,
of deal.
yeah, actually that's true. I don't recall any character that I did not like, because even the ones that I mildly didn't like weren't really, they showed up, they had maybe like 20 lines of dialogue, and then they disappeared for a while.
Hmm.
And they disappeared for long enough that I didn't that when they came back I was like, "Oh, it's you," instead of, "Oh, it's you."
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's only one part in this book, and it was towards books because we're doing two at once, and it was towards the end of the second book, so not even for quite a while. But there's only one part where I sat there groaning like, I want this arc to be done. I want this to be over. I want to continue on. Everything else felt like I enjoyed all of it.
Was it the what I got to know.
I'll type it to you.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we get into the rating that we want to mention about this to try to sell it to
Uh
people?
Well, like, I mean, Ray just mentioned it, but I do want to reiterate to anyone listening who has not read this book, we are doing two books at the same time. It is book 1 and 2 of this series. They're not incredibly long. As far as Audible, these are like, 16 hours long. It's not that
Yeah, I
bad.
think the first one was like 13 and a half, and the second was like 16. Yeah. All right, so Bantam, uh, X out of, I think we started doing 10. X out of 10. No, we'll go back to 5. Fuck it. X out of 5 stars, and then would you live here?
Uh, 4 out of 5 stars. And again, with some caveats, yes, I would live here.
What's the caveat?
The caveat is that I start with a rare or legendary card.
Yeah. As long as you have main character syndrome.
As long as I have main character syndrome, yes, I would live here. But as we'll get into the spoiler section, well, it's not really a spoiler, but just having any card at all, any card, you are now referred to by other people as someone who is carded. Because the Scourge also spread a sickness that if you get an infected cut with Scourge sickness, you're dead, or you're losing the limb.
Or
Um,
breathe in
or
Scourge
breathe
dust or
in
whatever.
or breathe in their dust, you are dead. You are not going to survive it. It is going to fester and infect your whole body, and you are going to die. If you have a card, any card, then you could have a card that lets you spit 10 feet away, and that's it. You are now protected from the Scourge. So literally having any card of any rarity that does anything is basically you're a class above regular people.
Yeah, it
Because
also helps you grow stronger and
yeah,
taller and healthier.
yeah, everyone who does not have a card are literally referred to as the uncarded by carded
The
people, and
the
it's
dregs
almost
of
done.
society.
It's almost like you spit on that, like uncarded. you
Yeah, like
know?
we said before, they do bring the whole concept of the cards into their social structure. So, like, yeah, the nobility have all the rares and legendaries, and then the people that can't afford any cards are like the really really low tier peasants. Like, you're only good for manual labor kind of deal, right?
Yeah, like not even a lot of farmers have cards, from what I understand, because there's a couple times where the main character gets accused of being some like backwoods farmer because he doesn't have a card or something.
Yeah. All right, to answer my own question, 5 out of 5, and yes, I would live here. I mean, I love the concept of all the magic being tied to cards. I love cards. I want to build decks. I want to play card games.
I want to give you the same caveat though, regardless of whether you accept it, because I really don't think you'd love to live here if you didn't have a card and couldn't get one. And like, imagine you lived here, and then
Well,
like
yes, but
two
I'm a main
months in,
character, so.
I know, but then like 2 months into living there, you're about to get your first card, and you get killed by a Scourgeling, and it's like, I don't think you'd love your time there. So,
That was just a bad character wall. Let me make a new one.
yes, a do-over.
Do-over. Nah, the concept of the would you live here was from our positions, basically, for the sake of the show, role-playing as these dragons who hop from universe to universe. If we would want to spend some time there, and, with the power to hop universes, of course, I get to have whatever card I want when I'm there. Mating and flight rules. I'm a powerful dragon that just upends everything when I come visit.
Like I told Ray that I actually have like this desire to, if we were world hopping, I'd probably spend a lot of time here, but under the caveat that I have a bunch of legendary cards, or at least a mythic. A card that basically makes me impervious and invulnerable and untouchable, but not for the reasons of like I want to take over and kill people. I just want to exist in the world and be peaceful and walk around and meet people, but I don't want to ever be in danger.
The boy wants to play with cheat mode on.
I want to play with cheat mode on in this universe. And seeing as some of the descriptions of these cards, I mean, you kind of can. It's really up to the luck of the cards.
Gotta get more booster packs.
Like,
which is basically what the shards are, is booster packs. One
yeah.
card booster packs.
And the main character, like, he gets a bunch of cards throughout his journey, but like even the most mundane of cards could be considered cheats by most people's standards. Like, he gets a card called Personal Space. It's a 30 by 30 cube of extra dimensional space where he can just store shit. And it's like, even that could be considered a cheat because he can just put whatever the fuck he wants in there and carry around like a house worth of stuff. Like,
yeah. He has the bag of holding card.
yeah. And it's like, even something like that I would fucking kill for.
Mm-hmm. You just want a card that lets you talk to snakes.
Yeah. I mean, there was a card described in the book that lets you talk to weasels, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
And when he gets to like one of the first towns while he's traveling, there's a person that's like talking to their dog as if they're having a conversation. So obviously had a speak with dogs card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very heavily implied. But yeah, so I guess that's it for spoiler free. So we'll do our little musical break. And when we come back, we will read a very poorly written synopsis of book 1 and 2 that we wrote ourselves.
Written with all the love and care that 20 minutes could provide.
We're just not really good at writing summaries yet. We're still practicing.
Yeah, because if I'm let to do it live, then I meander and ramble.
Which is why we are trying to write it beforehand. But yeah, the point of that being, for those of you who want to listen to the second half but have no interest in reading the book for yourself for one reason or another, so you can understand the general plot line of what happened.
Yeah, next episode...
Before we get into a lot of our spoiler-filled discussion on particular scenes we liked or didn't like, certain characters, and so on and so forth.
Here's what I'll do. Next episode, this section of the episode will be way better because I'm actually going to take bullet point notes of major plot points of book 3, and I'm going to type them all out, and then we can write a much more summarized, good summary that wasn't written in 20 minutes in desperation.
Yeah.
So one of us take one book and one of us take the other. Which one do you want, Ray?
I'll do book 1, I guess, because I wrote most of that before you started have adding it.
Okay.
All
right. So here's the summary for book 1.
Yeah. Insert music here, and then welcome back, everyone. Hooray. All right. So the story begins with Arthur Rowantree, son of a trader, living in a border village, which is where the condemned are sent to live out their miserable existence, reclaiming dead land from the Scourge. They are not allowed to leave, nor possess any cards, and are intended to spend the rest of their days here and die a slow death. One day, a wild dragon attacks the Baron's carriage and gives a legendary card pilfered from it to Arthur, who witnessed the events, believing that this would cause the most grievance to the Baron by giving it to a nobody like him. Arthur is then sent away by his father, smuggled out of the border town village by an old friend named Red, who runs a smuggler's caravan. Separated from Red during a Scourge eruption that happens on their travels, Arthur then finds himself transported to a hive city where dragon riders live and work. Here he befriends Horatio, and they both start a long 5-year plan to earn their own rare cards. Horatio so he can bind with his father's old dragon, and Arthur so he can have a powerful card to sort of mask the presence of his legendary card. A rare egg hatches during this time, and Arthur, showing vague interest in the proceedings, as if he had a shot to bind with it for the intent of masking his legendary card. During the proceedings, he begins to rub elbows with nobility and impersonating one as Ernest Kane. He meets his cousin Penn and his uncle, who inherited his duchy, belonging to his father after they were sent to live in the border village. In a fit of indignation, Arthur plots to steal back his inheritance in the form of a pack of cards that his uncle and cousin were planning to sell. In this pack of cards is a legendary card that is part of the same set as his own. The heist is a success. Horatio is able to get a card to bind with Sam's, his father's dragon, and moves to Buckmoon Hive. Arthur's relatives quietly leave in disgrace, and while celebrating his new stolen legendary, stumbles upon a lost legendary egg.
Feel free to cut this little part out here, Ray, but it's so funny when you don't read the script and you're trying to switch up words and listening to you struggle. Because I was reading along with you, and I was like, how funny would it be if I deleted this message?
Mean.
Yeah. All right, and so the summary for Book 2. The major cliffhanger in Book 1 is resolved when Arthur attempts to find a rare card for Cassida, so she can bind with the newly hatched rare pink, which hatched sick with the Scourge, and a broken or incomplete card. In the process of trying to find a usable card in the Scholars Guild, Arthur and Cassida unwittingly unleash the Mind Singer, a highly intelligent Scourgeling created by the Guild and educated by them, which explains the Scourge sickness seeping into the hive. Cassida does bind with the dragon and heals it, and she leaves to go train with it. With the legendary egg recovered by Wolfmoon Hive, Arthur shows interest in the proceedings and competition for the legendary egg, letting the world know that he at least has a legendary card now. During the proceedings, he befriends a prince and princess and reunites with his cousin Penn, who now suspects Arthur may have his card, with a feigned attack that Arthur brushes off. The legendary recruits are then sent on field exercises in an active Scourge eruption zone to see what they are like, but the entire thing is a trap laid by the Mind Singer to kill and harvest all of them. But Arthur, bending the limits of what his Master of Skills card can do, manages to save the day. The legendary egg hatches, and Arthur is able to bind with Brixby. Or is it Bixby or Brixby?
I think it's Brixaby.
Brixby, but reveals his card to him, which Penn now realizes is his stolen card. As the new legendary writer, Arthur is expected to make a vow to the king, but during the interview, Penn and his father arrive to accuse him of theft and demand recompense. They tell the king about Arthur having a pair, which is highly illegal, and Arthur is sentenced to death. But while awaiting execution and separated from Brixby, the Mind Singer offers him a way out in the form of a distraction. Arthur, in his desperation, accepts. The plan works. Arthur is reunited with Brixby, offered a second chance with the king, who has severe dementia and can never remember, by the grace of his dragon Long By. Arthur makes his vow and returns to Wolfmoon Hive, where he will begin Hive leader training. I did forget to mention that the reason why the Mind Singer, which is kind of the primary antagonist to Book 2, by the end of it, the only reason the Mind Singer agreed to help was because Arthur managed to kill one of its sisters, and a rare card that essentially makes up its sister's personality is hiding in Arthur's personal space, and she wants the card back.
It's kind of the first time I read the book, it was kind of, I understood it to be implied that if she gets the card that belonged to her sister, then it, like, I guess, corrupts the card or something, that the resulting Scourgeling would just be her sister. Like, it would be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
With even the same memories. Like, that's what I understood. Like, it would be literally her sister is back. Like, that's how you bring back a dead Scourgeling, is by corrupting the same card that they dropped upon death.
Yeah.
Now I'm just wondering if that maybe this creature doesn't care about the sister, just uses that as like a way to explain you killed my sister, but all it really wants is just the card for the sake of the power, because it, they were a trio that were able to do really powerful
Really
mind
powerful.
magic,
Yeah.
and just wants the card back for the sake of having the card back.
Yeah, it's not really explained, so we're not really sure. But essentially, the Mindsinger wants the card back. Arthur never put the card into his deck. He put it in his personal space because he didn't know what to do with it at the time. So the Mindsinger wants the card back and offers him a distraction, which is setting up. And one of the things is that it feels like the second book is setting up the Mindsinger and Penn as the primary antagonists, and I have thoughts on that.
Yeah. So now we're in spoiler and everybody knows what's going on. Brixby is the greatest thing in the entire world.
Yeah, he is.
I am Brixby. I will have your cards.
Brixby is described as incredibly small, about the size of a bird.
He's hatched as a largest sparrow in size.
Yeah, and whereas most hatchlings are like dog size. So he's black. He's not black. He's the darkest purple you can get, to the point where he looks black unless certain light
like bounces off him or something.
Yeah. He has 4 wings, and he has beady.
Only other purple dragons have 4 wings.
Yeah, very, very. They fly like hummingbirds, and he also has red eyes. So he basically looks like a Scourgeling, which may have implications for Book 3. We're not sure.
Yeah. His power, like, because every dragon is born with a certain power. It's what makes up the card that is in their core being, right? His power involves stealing and copying other people's powers. Like, he can literally go up to somebody and rip the card out of their heart, and it's like, it's mine now. I'm gonna eat it. Nom 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 nom.
Yeah, I think his core power was the one that lets him digest cards, right?
Yes.
So his core power is he can eat your card and then steal its magical essence, which does nothing aside from just empower him. But
he can hold 10 stolen powers.
Well, no, that's after he links with Arthur.
No, that's he can always. So when he eats a card, he's able to store it as a stolen power, and he can only hold 10 of them.
Oh,
the
okay.
The linked power he gets with Arthur is the ability for either of them to temporarily copy any power or skill or spell that is activated within their vicinity.
Oh, that's true.
That's a time limit thing, depending on how powerful the triggering power was.
And one of the things they mentioned when the card was describing its abilities to Arthur, the NPC voice or whatever, it said that he can copy mythic cards for up to 1 second. And I'm like, oh, that'll definitely come into play.
Yeah, that feels like a Chekhov's gun. Like, he's going to have to fight a mythic something at some point.
And he's going to have to immediately fire back.
Going to copy, like, a nullify power. And he's, like, immediately uses it. And then, like, it's going to come up at some point.
It's
right?
gotta. It's definitely a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. But yeah, when Brixby hatched, someone even says, that's not a dragon, that's a Scourgeling in dragon skin. Because when he hatched, he was a menace. He's flying around, stealing people's cards, ripping them out of their hearts, which is what the Scourge actually do. And so, initially, I felt like this was going to be like, he's half dragon and half Scourge. He's going to bridge the gap. We're going to get more deep lore on what the Scourge actually are, kind of deal. But I think it's literally just his card power. It may not be that he's part Scourge at all.
Yeah. Again,
it's just we're giving the main character the ability to train up any skill he wants, so he can do everything. Let's give the dragon the ability to steal every power. This way they can both be like super OP together.
I will reiterate, I have never been more excited to get to the next book in a series. Until the only time I'll be more excited than right now is if they announce Zoth Avrax 2.
Which I don't think they will. That felt very.
It felt like a very one and done book, and I'm happy for it. But I'm also very happy for this book series, because then book 4 comes out in August, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, he's hoping you love Temporary when we get to that, because with 9 books you'll be very, very happy indeed then.
Highly doubt I will, but we'll see. They have audiobook forms, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing about me and books, is that an audiobook is always going to be much more desired than a written book that I have to physically read, because with audiobooks, I can do them at work, I can build Legos, I can draw, I can do whatever while listening to it. I can multitask. But reading a book,
The pains of having ADHD.
yeah, but reading a physical book or having to read things on the screen, it's like every 5 or 6 pages, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go look at YouTube. It's like, I just can't.
Tanith crunching down water bottles in the background. Alright. But yes, Brixby is the greatest thing ever. He is like OMG, literally me, for real, right?
All right, that's it.
It's just the way that I perceive myself in. How do I explain this?
You vibe with him.
I vibe with him. Right? It's weird because I spend way too much time online and in fantasy worlds. Like, oh, I would be great if I lived in this universe and I was this character, or if I lived in this universe and was that character, right? And one of the mainstay staple universes I like to just imagine living in involves me being a teeny tiny little menace. So yeah, Brixby for real. One thing I'm looking forward to, hopefully in book 3, because if they don't bring it back soon, it's gonna be it's gonna feel very Deus Ex Machina-ish at that point. But what is up with the red dragon at the beginning that gave Arthur his legendary card? Like, just out of nowhere, dragon, here, have the most powerful legendary card ever. Goodbye. Never shows, refuses to elaborate.
Yeah, so the very beginning of the book, this dragon just shows up and attacks a caravan full of armed and carded guards. And the guards, I mean, keep in mind, these guards are transporting a legendary card. Anybody who is in possession of a legendary is basically socially elevated to nobility. So they are transporting this with armed guards, and you'd think that these armed guards are probably loaded, right? Like they could take out anything, and this dragon just basically murders the shit out of them in like it's barely an inconvenience. And then it's
6 seconds, one combat round, done.
yeah, and it's like, and then the dragon's like, oh, you here, take this card, it'll really piss off the baron, bye. We never hear about that dragon again. And it's like,
not even like some random rumor while he's living in the hive, like, oh, did you hear about this wild dragon that's causing trouble?
The only time the dragon is ever mentioned again, the red dragon from the beginning, is like halfway through book 2, when they're talking about what happens to dragons when they don't ever get a partner. That they either stay in the hive and help raise little ones, or they go off and become wild dragons. And
Arthur mental
kind
dialogue
of,
is like, oh, it must have been what that red dragon was, which is a
yeah,
wild dragon.
that's the only other time that it's ever mentioned.
Yeah, so it's like, that's a big puzzle piece that I need filled in still. And I hope it happens in this book, because if I have to wait longer to find out, I'm just going to be confused the whole time.
Yeah. Ray actually thought before Brixby came out that maybe Arthur was going to end up binding with the red dragon or meeting up with him again.
When I was reading the book the first time, and like they're going through the whole promenade with the rare egg at first, where he's pretending to be just a rare candidate to bind with this thing, because at this point no one knows he's got the legendary card, and so he's like, well, I guess I gotta go for the rare egg because I do have a rare card that everyone is common knowledge, right? And so obviously he's not getting that, and at this point in the book, the legendary egg doesn't exist, right? It is mentioned only in the epilogue of the first book. So I'm sitting there thinking like, I wonder if he's eventually going to bind with that dragon that gave him the card at the beginning. Because this dragon really does seem to be I'm going to tear down society kind of dragon. And I wonder if it's going to be that kind of story where like Arthur ends up joining the rebellion, basically, and whatever, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been too bad. I would have missed Brixby, but that would have been a pretty interesting story.
Yeah.
I like this story better because this is more of somebody who came from nothing is immediately elevated up into nobility. Like, some of my favorite parts are when he's pretending to be a noble, and then when he kind of becomes one, because once he gets Brixby, he essentially just immediately, boom, hey, guess what? You're a noble now. Everybody, quote, everybody knows your secret at this point. The king for sure does. And so I feel like with it being relatively common knowledge, at least as far as the royals are concerned, he might tell everybody, "Oh yeah, I'm Rowan Tree. I came from the border village. Here's my legendary card." Like, I feel like there's no reason to hide anymore because
Yeah,
it's already come out.
the thing that they've established in the book very early on is that the only one who's the reason why he lives in the border village where the condemned are is because he just happened to be a child of the person who was actually condemned. They actually established that once you turn 18, you're allowed to leave the village. They literally just release you out into the wild, and who fucking cares what happens to you at that point. But the point is that once you turn 18, you do not have to stay in the village because you are not the condemned. Like, you're just a child of someone who committed a crime.
Hmm.
So at no point did Arthur need to hide his identity once he left. He only did it kind of like, I don't even know why he even bothered coming up with the fake name in the first place. He could have just gone around as Arthur Rowantree, and I don't think the story would have changed much.
I feel like he's maybe required to stay in the village until he's 18. So the fact that he was smuggled out early meant he had to hide his identity. And then by the time he hit 18, there was a whole bunch of like, well, we can't let anybody know that the son of this trader person here has a legendary card because that's just going to cause issues. Like, I feel like at this point, before the scene with the king, at this point, we were basically having a superhero dilemma of I have to pretend to be someone else just so my loved ones aren't targeted. But like that's out now. Penn and Lionel Rowantree know about his father. I forget his name. So there's no reason to hide anymore. They know, and they're already going to go target him. That was actually a plot point at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, to finish the previous thought, I love a lot of the parts now that he's become a noble, where he gets to, be a noble. I like, I don't know if I'd call it rags to riches stories. I
It
like
kind of
monarchies.
is.
I like monarchistic hierarchies. I like the idea of this noble person getting to like boss everybody around. It vibes with me. Like that's my personal
Well,
power fantasy. It's just, hey, I was born better than you. Do what I say.
because but that's not what Arthur is at all, though. Like,
I know, but like he does it a little bit just because he's got to pretend to fit in. So
yeah,
I still kind of enjoyed it. Like for example, when he's at the dragon training class, right, and then he gets in the fight with the guy, the rider of the brown quicksand dragon, whatever their names were, right, and he gets punched, or he would if he didn't face through it, but he gets attacked, and then the trainer comes over and says, "That's enough. How dare you? You never strike at a legendary rider. How I could have you shipped off to the dragon soil fields for." Blah, right, super angry, right? And
yeah,
then to him, it's just like even though it's technically his fault and his dragon's fault, like they started, she's like, "I'm so sorry, sir. That'll never. You can go and do whatever. That's fine if that's your right." Very scrapey, very right
yeah.
subservient. And it's like he doesn't like that. I get that, but me, I love that. That's the vibe.
I think that's one of the reasons I like him as a character is that he did start off with nothing. I mean, like, absolutely nothing. And the fact that he is now in a position by the end of book 2 of being able to pull a little rope and have a king's feast delivered to him whenever the
Mm-hmm.
fuck he wants, free of charge. And he still doesn't take like super advantage of that. Like, he wants to help others. He's always thinking about how can I use my position to better others.
Yeah,
And I
but
like that about him.
this
He's
the heart of gold is great. I will say that if he actually became an asshole, I would be okay with that because I like corruption stories. That's me personally. I like corruption stories better than redemption stories. I feel like they're more interesting. But I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't wish for that to happen. Just if it did. But
yeah,
yeah.
there's a part in book 2 where once Arthur is a legendary recruit, like they know he has a legendary card, they just don't know what card it is. Um, Arthur, Penn, a princess, and someone else, I think, get sent out to an active eruption, without any dragons, mind you. because they're supposed to try to help out. They need some combat experience. They need to understand what an eruption is. And the whole thing turns out to be a trap for the Mind Singer put out with the intent on harvesting cards.
It's weird. So I want to interrupt really fast because when you say the whole thing's a trap, you make it sound like she orchestrated the whole thing. And at later point, she explains, "I had nothing to do with this. I'm only a rare. You think I have the power to summon a legendary? No, it was happening anyway. I just made the best of it."
Okay,
So,
true. Okay, but the point is that at one point, so the way the Mind Singer springs a trap is that she basically traps a lot of the people in fog clouds that also put them in like a mind prison. Like they're not only can they not see, but they're
yeah,
also like falling forever or whatever
yeah.
in their mind.
It's for you anime lovers. It's like some ultimate genjutsu trap.
Yeah, and slap. Um,
Slap.
So
Genjutsu.
Arthur manages to break free. Just consider it that he rolled 20 on his fucking willpower save. And while he's attempting to save others, he thinks about killing Penn. Penn is trapped in this whatever,
Yeah,
and Penn is right there. He has the Master of Combat card. So the two, we never talked about the two legendary cards that Arthur has, but
yeah.
whatever. Penn has the Master of Combat card, which is the third in a set that Arthur currently has two of, and Arthur looks at him like I could kill him right now and no one would know. Like I could just shove his body off into the trees. No one would ever. This is an eruption. People die all the time. I could kill him. I'd get that card. And Ray and I, we were talking about it, and we both decided that our morals would fail us at that moment. We would both do it.
I don't know for sure if I would have. I would have been super tempted. The only reason that I wouldn't would be because I don't think I could get away with it at the end. Like,
And
I'm sitting here with, like, I could take him out, yes, like, he's right there, just pull out his knife and just stab him, right? Take his card. But, like, the prince and princess there, I don't want to kill them, right? So, how do I explain this to them? I don't feel like I could cover it up decently enough.
I feel like if you just stabbed Penn, killed him, took his one legendary card, and then threw his body into the open, the Scourgelings would get him. Like they'd get the rest of the cards, and then you could be like, "Oh my God, he was torn to shreds by Scourgelings!" But I saved the prince and princess. Like I definitely feel like I could have gotten away with it.
The thing is, so I would be worried about some sort of card power being able to discern the truth. Like there have been truth seekers, right? That's a very prevalent thing. There's also been like a Doshi and his writer, the ability to astral project the past events to see what actually happened. It's like if they launch an investigation, I'm fucked.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, even with the truth seekers, if you threw him to a pack of Scourgelings and then hid in the fog cloud or whatever, which it's implied that even the other Scourgelings don't understand what's going on with the fog cloud or whatever. But if you were to throw Penn's body to the Scourgelings and then they tear him apart, when the truth singer is like, "What happened to Penn Rowantree?" Torn to shreds by Scourgelings. Ah, like that's the truth. He was.
Yes, but
I
are you
could,
clever enough to think of that in the moment?
yeah. Well, no, I don't
Uh,
think that that's how it works. I don't think they're literally reading your mind. I think the truth seekers are literally what you just said. Is that the truth or is that a lie? And if you said he was torn to shreds by Scourgelings, that is the truth. If you said he was killed by Scourgelings, that would not be the truth.
yeah, so what if they ask you, how did he die?
Then I'm fucked.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
But I don't
That's my
think
point.
they would ask that follow-up question if I said he was torn to shreds by
No,
Scourgelings.
that's not a follow-up. That's the opening question. How did he die? Were you just gonna immediately run into your story before they even ask you anything? That's highly suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. anyway. Ah. Let's talk about the set of cards. That's a good segue. So, like, Arthur's got the pair. It's highly illegal. Why is it highly illegal, Bantam? I'll tell you because I don't trust you to tell me.
I will tell you. No, I will tell you because I do know. So the reason why having a set of cards is illegal is because you have the potential of combining 5 in a set to then upgrade the tier. So if you have 5 common cards that let you, for example, polish forks, polish knives, polish silverware, whatever, or polish spoons, and then you get 5 of these, they will combine into an uncommon card that will let you polish all silverware. And then if you were to get 4 more uncommon cards that let you polish wood, polish stone, whatever, then you would have a rare card that lets you polish any material. The point is that each of the 5 cards become one card that does everything those 5 did, and then there would be 4 more in the set potentially or whatever. But the thing is if you were to gather 5 legendaries of a set, you could create a mythic card. And that is essentially treason against the crown, because the
Because
crown is
only the king has mythic.
only the kings are allowed to have mythic. And so if you are starting, even just starting to build a set, you are seen as a threat to the crown because they think that you're going to attempt to usurp the throne.
Yeah, because you know how people in power are always scared of losing it, right?
And if I recall correctly, it's any set. Like even if you have 2 rare cards that are linked, that's a problem because it shows it shows your
it shows the
intent to
possibility.
ascend.
Yeah.
Once you understand what ascension is, you're a threat. Because at one point during the interview, when he's being sentenced to death by the king, after that whole thing falls apart, the king asks him if he was, or at one point the king asks him if he's aware of what ascension is, and Arthur says no.
Longby the dragon asked that.
Longby asked that, and Arthur says no, I don't know what that is, and the truth seeker says that that's the truth. So he doesn't actually know that having a card set could be. He just knows it's wrong, but he doesn't know why.
I don't think he even knew it was wrong. Like, it never really actually came up. And then Longby asked something along the lines of, are you seeking a set to ascend or something like that? And he's like, what are you talking about? And then the truth is like, truth.
Yeah.
And Longby turns to the king's like, it turns out that he was just acting in ignorance and whatever. And the king's like, well, ignorance is not permission to break the law still. Blah, blah,
yeah,
whatever.
And I think that's stupid. If you don't know that you're breaking a law, then that's dumb. And you should be forgiven.
First off, not just forgiven, right? Maybe some leniency, but not for all forgiven. But it just goes to show how scared the king is of losing his power. Like, even if he was ignorant, the fact that he could have accidentally stumbled upon creating a mythic, no leniency, take him out because just make an example of him to everybody else.
Yeah, my whole thoughts on that is that if you go to a kingdom and leaning against a wall is punishable by death and against the law, and you lean against a wall but you didn't know that because you're from a different kingdom, that doesn't give them the right to kill you. They tell you that is highly illegal. Do not lean on buildings. Okay, now if you lean against a building again, you're going to get put to death. But
here's the thing. So first off, this is a really good example, leaning against the wall, but whatever. Just I'm gonna roll with it. The reason why they would still put you to death, mostly for an example to other people, is because what's stopping somebody who does know from doing it and just claiming, oh, sorry, I didn't know?
Because then they get brought in on charges. They can get away with that lie once, but now there's a record that this person.
This is why it's a bad example, leaning against a wall, because with a crime that you would usually do this with, such as ascending to mythic, you don't want them to have that one chance, because that one chance could be enough to topple you.
Yeah, I guess. Still stupid. And yeah, earlier in the episode when I asked Ray what the scene was that he hated, and I needed to know. And yeah, it turns out it's the same scene I didn't like either.
The reason I didn't like this scene is because the fact that the aura of the mythic dragon negates card power. So he's in there without any of his skills, any of his trap cards, any of his whatever. He's basically just he's essentially naked before the king, right? No power, and that feels cheap. It felt like stripping away his character growth, putting him back to square one, which feels really cheap and is almost just as bad as stuff like mind control or amnesia. I feel like it's just a real cheap shot, man.
Yeah.
And also just like, oh, yay, he finally gets the dragon. He has Brixby. This is amazing. The future of the story is going to be great because Brixby will be there the whole time. He's going to learn how to be a noble and be a leader, and we're going to have really cool interactions. And like, nope, here, prison, immediately. we're gonna pull the dragon away from you and force him to bind with somebody else. Because again, remember at this time I don't know how it's gonna end. For like, he's obviously not gonna die, the main character, right? But maybe he never gets back with Brixby for like the next like 2.5 books, and this is when he's forced to go and find the wild red dragon from the prologue, we'll call it.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I just did not like the sudden shift in direction. It felt very pulling the rug out from under me kind of moment, like, hey, everything's great. Oh, fuck, no, it's not. But yeah, it worked out in the end. Reading it a second time was not nearly as frustrating because I knew how it ended, and like it made sense. Also, the fact that the king has dementia,
So
I
it's a
just don't
little.
like that.
Yeah, I don't
It's a
either.
little too real.
Yeah, the other thing is that it's explained that every single king in every single kingdom is currently dealing with the same thing, that they are
Makes you
essentially
wonder why.
they're all mad with power and terrified and scared to lose their power. And I mean, for us the reader, we can kind of surmise that that's because the mythic cards are basically breaking their brain. I mean, when the legendary egg is put out on display, its aura is so powerful that it can basically make people go crazy or die or break out in hives. At one point this kid just starts throwing up uncontrollably just being near the egg. That the egg is so powerful that it has a physical effect on people. And it's like you can imagine what a mythic would do at that point. And so with how much magic is in a mythic card or being around a mythic dragon, it could probably do stuff to your brain. They explain that if a common card is, let's say, 1 power level, a uncommon card is 10, rare is 100. A
Yeah,
legendary
it's
is,
called magnitudes.
yeah, it's huge magnitudes. So the difference between a legendary and a mythic is fucking
It's
crazy.
still 10 times. That's how
Okay,
magnitude works.
10 times, whatever. But it's a crazy amount. So human beings being fragile creatures, uh, it's probably the mythic cards that are doing it.
Yeah, I have another like theory, and like this is probably not it, but like the king is supposed to be like super super old. Like there was someone that said, oh, they like, what's her name? The hive leader lady starts with a V.
Uh,
It's not Valerie, not Victoria.
I can't remember. A lot of the human characters that I don't like, I tend to forget their names.
Yeah. Point is, she's old, right? She's supposed to be like Valentina. Thank you.
Valentina.
She she's like 70 or 80, and she's like, the king was old when I was young, so this king is ancient, right? And when we see him, he's in the body of like a 12-year-old or something. Like
He's
his
in the body
body
of a
isn't aging.
teenager or something like that.
Either his body isn't aging, or he's using an illusion to appear young, or something. I don't know. But the point is, he's super super old, all right? And now let's get like a little hyper realistic here for a second. Human bodies with a brain made of physical matter, the way it stores information through with neurons and whatever, however, I don't know anatomy. However, a brain actually stores memories. There's only so much space in there, right? And you have your lifespan of, let's just say, 100 years to make it a nice flat number. So arguably the human brain is able to hold 100 years worth of information because that's just kind of what it naturally evolved and was built for. Once you start fucking with that with magic, and this is why this is a big problem with like immortality stories, like with a vampire or whatever that lives for thousands of years, right? Eventually you run out of space. You essentially your hard drive fills up, and you've got to start deleting stuff to make room for all the like the new memories that you're making, right? So just the fact that he's super old, yeah, his brain is going to be crumbling. It's full. It's deleting random stuff to make room for new memories. He's going to keep like forgetting things. That I feel like that explains the dementia really well.
Yeah,
If all these other kings are in the same boat in the sense that they are very, very, very old because their mythic cards keep them alive or whatever, their minds are going to be crumbling. And so I think the intent is that they're supposed to pass the mantle on, as it were, and they just haven't for whatever reason.
well, because they don't want to give up their power.
Well, yeah.
Like they're all jealous and crazy, and they don't want to give up any of their power.
Which is a trope. But yeah. Also, what's really worth interesting noting is with the dragons and the Scourge being mirrors of each other, and there being 7 mythic level Scourge, which are called the Scourge Gods, and then there's currently only 5 mythic level dragons, because I guess 2 of them died or something, and that's why the balance of power is thrown off and why the Scourge are getting stronger and whatnot. I feel like, I guess this is me predicting for future books or whatever, I feel like this like sets the stage for, it's like, yes, Arthur is going to get all the legendary cards, he's going to combine them and ascend to mythic, and that's going to cause Brixby to ascend to mythic, and he's going to become one of them. That means there's another empty slot still, but I feel like this is the writing on the wall for like the story is going to proceed with Arthur ascending to mythic eventually, which means Penn has to die so Arthur can get his card.
Well, we talked about the at work. We talked about the possibilities of Penn's fate, because Penn has the Master of Combat card, and Arthur is very obviously going to want that or need that. So we one of the special abilities that Brixby has is that he can, as we said, take cards out of people without killing them. He can just take it. So either through theft, using his dragon, killing Penn, or Penn willingly giving it up, which will probably is the least likely of the 3.
Yeah.
My major prediction for the 3rd book is by the end of the 2nd book, we now have 2 major antagonists. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a tiny tangent, so forgive me, Ray. But the Mind Singer, when Arthur is about to be put to death and he's put in a holding cell, the Mind Singer reaches out to him and says, "Hey, if you give me back my card, I will give you an opportunity to free yourself." And so he takes it. And the stipulation, the payment being the Mind Singer wants the card back. So the Mind Singer holds up its end of the bargain. It gets him a opportunity by removing Penn and Lionel from the equation by having them recalled to their kingdom.
Yeah, I think it's like a false alarm, like somebody gives a false report. Hey, we're under attack. You better come home.
Yeah, and then and it's funny because the mythic dragon seems to be in on it. Like she doesn't know exactly who sent it, but she just thinks it's funny that someone set up such a fucking painfully dumb ruse, but
I
decided
think
to.
she also doesn't like Penn and Lionel. She's like, yes, get rid of them, please.
Yeah. So with them out of the picture and the king's dementia, basically Arthur has a second chance from scratch with the king, and so he gets his oath card. Well, then he's able to go back and visit his father. And one of the things about his father is old and he's sick. He's working in the Barren Lands, and he refuses to take a card to help himself because he took an oath to the king, which is magically binding to his heart. And Brixby's like, "Oh, is that it?" And then Brixby just launches himself at his dad under Arthur's direction.
It was Arthur's idea. Like, hey, can you see a card? Can you see an oath card in his heart? He's like, it's not in the heart. It's kind of next to it.
Yeah, and he's like, "Can you grab it?" And the dad's like, "Wait, what?" And then Brixby just takes the oath card and eats it. And so
nom, 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 nom.
Brixby has the ability to undo the king's oath. Mythic level.
Gee, isn't it super lucky that the oath manifests as a card?
Yeah, and so
what are the chances of that?
Yeah, so Brixby has the ability to just remove the oath card, and so my theory on the 3rd book is that anyway, back to my point. So when they're discussing, when he finds out that he now has to make good on his deal with the Mind Singer, he's talking with Brixby about it, and Brixby is like, "I don't like the idea of you working with a Scourgeling because like they're the antithesis of life and blah blah blah." And he's like, "Yeah, but if I just went back on my word, that would be terrible. I have to be a man." And then Brixby's like, "Or let me see the card." And so he pulls the card out, and Brixby just eats it and destroys it.
Yeah. He's trying to. So Brixby hates the Scourge because the dragons are the antithesis of the Scourge. The Scourge are the antithesis of the dragons. They're opposite ends of the spectrum. They hate each other. Longby is like begrudgingly accepting because I guess being mythic and a ruler, she understands that some things just are. I don't know. I need to see more about her. But anyway, Brixby hates them. He's like, you can't give her the card. You can't help the Scourge. What? It's like throwing a little fit, right? And Arthur has to explain the concept of honor, and he gave his word and all that, which I think is actually really cool. Coming full circle of personality traits when talking to his dad when he was like 12 years old back in book 1. It's like, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just take the card? Why don't you just whatever? Like the dad mentions the oath, but rather than explain the binding magic of it, it says, and also I made a promise, and if nothing else, I'm a man of my honor, a man of
Yeah.
my word, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really cool personality growth thing for him, where he's like, I'm going to give the card to the Scourge just because I promise, and I'm going to keep my word.
Yeah.
And then Biffy's
So
like, oh, fine, well, at least let me see it so I know what you're releasing into the world then. And then
yeah,
just fucking steals it.
and then steals it and eats it and uses his ability to basically completely destroy the card.
Yeah.
Now, so where that leaves us at the end of book 1 is that the only payment that Arthur had in exchange for the Mindsinger keeping up their end of the bargain is now gone. So the Mindsinger is going to be pissed. And on top of that, when Penn eventually makes his way back from the fake out, he's going to be pissed. And my theory is that the Mindsinger is going to reach out to Penn, and they're going to work together to kill Arthur.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, basically, my theory is that there's going to be two antagonists in the third book, because at this point, Penn has nothing but overwhelming hatred for Arthur, and the Mindsinger has overwhelming hatred for Arthur.
Yeah.
So, the enemy of my enemy kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be the next book. I feel like that's going to be a backburner thing for all. But that really comes down to how many books is the story going to be anyway, and I don't know. I don't think the author has released like, oh yeah, I have the plan for the story. It's going to be exactly 5 books, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? I feel like 5 books would make the most sense if he gets a legendary card from the set in every book. Like
Oh,
book 3, he gets the Master of Combat. Book 4,
yeah,
he gets Master of Magic, and book 5, he gets whatever the 5th missing piece is.
yeah,
The only downside to that is I would like to see him be mythic for like at least a full book. Like getting your Voltron assembled at the very end is not very satisfying. So
yeah. That's true.
If you got a legendary card per book, I would want it to be at least 6 or 7 books then. But yeah, that feels better to me.
Well,
Like let me have a sufficiently long enough time to enjoy the payoff.
yeah. I mean, they could always short track it and just have him get 2 legendary cards in one book, and then have the 5th book be. The thing is that I believe that if he does become mythic, that he will overthrow the king, only because the king is obviously a fucking moron at this point, and the king doesn't have what's best for his people in his mind, because they're all corrupt at this point. They all just want to hoard power. And so, with Arthur's background and the fact that even in a position of power himself, he still gives back to people and still helps others around him, I feel like he would make a much better king. Also, the fact that his name is Arthur is not lost on me.
Mm. Arthur, cousin Penn, they have dragons. It's Arthur Pendragon. Oh shit.
Like, the someone, I almost can see the joke writing itself, where someone's like, King Arthur, that has a really good ring to it, you know.
I feel like that's exactly how it happened because yeah, it's the King Arthur story, and the last name was Pendragon, but then they're like, they gave Penn to somebody else. It's yeah, I can it'd be that.
Yeah, and
Whatever.
Rowan Tree is a very English
as someone who
sounding name.
as someone who can't come up with names, it's fine. I forgive you. I get it. It's whatever.
He's gonna meet a
So
new friend named Lance.
that's a weird little rant tangent, whatever, about the ending of the whole series. Because the end is where we get a whole lot of details. Like we still don't know what the big deal is with the Scourge. Like we just hear they're the enemies of life, but it's like usually a fantasy world that has an enemy of life, like the Scourge or whatever, it's usually there for a reason. To where like you literally cannot wipe them out because of some reason or another, right?
Yeah,
And I'm wondering. There's no possible way the dragons could be evil at all, right?
I
Not
don't
like
think
evil,
so.
but like bad for the world. Like without the Scourge, the dragons are doing everything by causing something so the Scourge need to be there to balance them out. Like I don't see how, but that's usually what kind of happens in these kind of stories.
I mean, the only thing I could possibly see is that the dragons and having cards create a form of longevity in living organic matter, like humans and whatever. Like, and the longer something lives, the more industrialized it becomes. Like maybe the Scourgelings are there to reset the world every few hundred years, and they're
If we
trying.
let humans advance too much, they destroy the planet with greenhouse gases. So we better knock them back a couple
Yeah,
pegs every now and then.
that's the only thing I can think of. But at that point, I'd probably dislocate my eyeballs rolling them so hard because I'm so sick and
What a
tired of.
commentary that would be.
Yeah, well, because like it's fine having commentary in your things. I mean, it's been done for many, many, many years. But it's like, God damn, do I really need to be hammered over the head with it in a fantasy book?
Yes.
It's like, come on.
I don't. I feel like there's more to the Scourge than meets the eye, and I'm just waiting to see that.
The fact that they have gods, and it's like, oh man, I wonder if he's gonna get to meet any of them at any
The
point.
fact that they're capable of becoming intelligent and working with people, like when the Mind Singer was saying, "I can go to another kingdom if that's the promise I need to make for you to give me back the card." Who knows? Maybe this kingdom will accept me for not for who I am, but something like that, right?
For what
With
we
her,
are.
it kind of implies that another kingdom might actually work with the Scourge and like not be trying to kill them nonstop. Like it's the Monster Hunter stories of Monster Hunter, right?
I mean, it's a little difficult to sell that the Scourge could possibly be good in any way, shape, or form when they're born with mouths so full of teeth that they can't close them, and they just lunge themselves at anything alive and rip it to shreds. I mean, uh, I don't know. I don't
I don't know.
really see how.
None of this makes sense, but the point is, I feel like there's more to them than we know so far.
The other thing is like I wonder what happened. Is it ever established that the Scourgelings will ever go after uncarded people?
Eventually, they definitely want the cards first, but I mean, like, if there's an uncarded person there, they'll still go for them because the fact that they just eat life in general.
Okay, yeah.
If they didn't leave the land desolate and scourge ridden and unable to like even grow stuff to where you need dragon soil to replenish it, if they didn't do that, then we could argue that yes, uncarded people are not a danger. But no, it's been shown time and time again that uncarded people are in danger all the time. I mean, that's why scourge eruptions near towns is such a big deal.
Yeah. But yeah,
One thing I want to you go.
I'm just super fucking excited to start book 3.
I know. I feel like we're gonna get more lore in book 3 because it's not spoiler to say what's on the back cover. The back cover book 3 says that he goes to a hive that exists outside of his kingdom. So he's leaving his kingdom to go see what the outside world is like. And I feel like that's going to give us a big insight into what the Scourge and whatnot does outside of their lands, right? Because they're
I mean,
supposed to be bordered by deadlands, right? That's the point
yeah.
of border villages. So he's going past that. And if there's life that exists past the Deadlands, granted it's a hive city, so they're probably also doing the same reclaiming stuff. I just feel like we're going to get more Scourge lore in the next book.
Yeah, I know you mentioned it, but yeah, at the very end of the book with the whole, sentence to death thing, so much lore was dropped on us. Like that's when we find out that there's Scourge gods and
There's
that
Scourge
there's
gods, and that's
X amount of mythic dragons and
we're missing 2 dragons. Oh, and cards can ascend, by the way.
yeah, it's like, oh shit, oh my god, lore dump,
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I do want to rant about for a bit. It's going to be a small rant. It's just the concept of, I don't know how to word this. In most books that involve a character getting some sort of power or some sort of ability or strength, it's usually something tricky. Let's call it something tricky. It's not very blunt and direct. It's usually like, in this mecha anime, it might be the fact that this mech it's small and lightweight, therefore it's very fast, and so it can overpower the much stronger mechs by just dodging all the time. Or there's another book I read where a guy gets reincarnated as a dragon, but he's a shadow dragon, so he can't beat the reds or the blues in straight up combat. So he's got to be stealthy and tricky and use illusions and traps. This book kind of does it too, where Arthur is not. He has no combat cards. He's not very strong and he's not very formidable. So he's got to use his smarts and his luck. He's got to bump that luck bump that luck stat up, right? And it's just, I'm tired of that. Like, I get it, Arthur, Mr. Honore. I get it. You think you're clever. You're gonna have an underdog win using luck and skills. So you're probably gonna like withhold the Master of Combat and Master of Magic card until the very end. Like, I get you think you're clever, and I do love your book, but my God,
What's
I want something where the main character is the big strong brute that just backhands everybody.
what's the
Vancure
fifth one?
was kind of like that, but Vancure was very satirical, so it only half counts.
Yeah. What was the fifth card in that set? Because I know they mentioned it.
The cards were never named. You kind of just assume their naming scheme based on the ones we've seen so far.
Because we have
Master
skills,
Body,
combat, magic.
Yeah, magic is obvious. The
What
fifth
would be
one, it's the weird utility card that's supposed to just affect the rest of the set. It could be, like my guess, it could be Master of Growth. This card like triples the XP you gain for any attached Master
Dear
card.
God.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because the fifth card in the set's always supposed to be some weird little meta card like that.
Yeah.
But the name was never given.
Before I forget to mention it, there was only one. There were only two parts of this out of these two books. They were both in book 2, by the way, that I had a problem with. So one of the problems was, as I mentioned, the whole you're going to be executed for your crimes against the crown scene. Having him take away all his powers just seemed really shitty and cheap, right?
Yeah.
That whole scene seemed to drag on because it was just, panicky and what's happening? Didn't really like it, but it wasn't awful, like in the grand scheme of things. But the biggest problem I had with the book was, as I mentioned before, it's a problem with litrpg specifically, where I get when you're reading the book, there'll be a box in the middle of the page that shows off all the skills and stuff, and you can skip over that with your eyes. But the narrator has to read it, and I understand that. But this fault is entirely on the writer. There's a part where he ends up with a card that he stole out of desperation from the prince, and the card says that he becomes skilled in any tool he picks up. And he found out that if he picks up a tool, gets the skill, and then puts down the tool, the skill stays unlocked at level 10. So he's essentially skipping over leveling with all these tools by just unlocking them ahead of time. So he has to give back the card. So he goes into his secret room, his personal space, is combined with a personal library card that lets him essentially fold himself into his own personal space and stop time.
He gets to mentally exist in there, which, since time pauses, he's able to just do whatever he wants to.
Yeah. And so he goes and he picks up every fucking tool he can find. And the narrator has to describe every single one. You now have butter knife proficiency, plus 10 to blah, blah, blah. With your... And it's... Every single one is he lists off the tool he picked up, what skill level he starts at, and that due to the other cards, you now start this at blah, blah, blah. And he does it 8 fucking times. And then, at the end of those 8 times, listening to him list off over and over and over different fucking tools, like sewing needles and fucking tuning forks or whatever the
fire poker. Yeah.
A fire poker, he then says, wow, he did all that, and then 6 more. It's like, dude, just list off 2 of them, and then write out 20 more. I don't need to listen to the narrator tell me that he picked up fucking 8 goddamn tools, and have the skills and their synergies listed out with each fucking one. I was like, Jesus Christ, if I had a skip forward 30 seconds button, I'd have been mashing it over and over. I was so I hated it. It's a lit RPG problem specifically. It's like, I understand that this world, this universe has rules, and that if you gain a skill, you get a pop-up notification. It's like, holy fucking shit. But you then, at the end of it, already explained away 6 more of them. Why didn't you just explain away more than 6?
Yeah, I will admit it's weird that it feels like he listed more than he skipped.
Yeah. And then 6 more. It's like, you fuck.
if it said, and then 2 dozen more, it would have been a bit more forgivable.
Yeah. It aggravated me so fucking bad.
The only other time that happens that I noticed is when he's currently mind controlled at the eruption, and he's like really speed leveling up his mental resistance.
Okay, but that was more forgivable because it was, quote, your mind shield ability has evolved to level 12. Your mind shield has evolved to level 13. It's like 6 words. But when he was picking up the tools, it was like 30 words
Yeah,
that was
all right.
being repeated over and over. Like, that actually felt more dramatic, actually, to me. Like, holy shit, you as the character, Arthur, are realizing I'm in severe fucking danger because the thing that is preventing me from dying is leveling up like crazy right now. Like, that's scary. And that's fine if you just saw a bunch of fucking gold text flying through your vision saying leveled up, level up, level up, level up, and you're like, oh god. But yeah, the tool thing pissed me off so fucking much. But yeah, that was literally the only part of the entire book I hated. There was a part that I thought I was going to hate, and it was when Arthur first got to the orphanage when he, became a rider recruit, um, only under the rare rank. But when he got to the hive or the orphanage, and they put him in a room with someone they called Horatio, and Horatio was basically described as the problem child, right? And I was like, oh great, am
He's
I gonna
so
have some?
grumpy and has
He's so
no
grumpy, and
motivation.
I'm like, are they gonna pair him up with some Eeyore motherfucker who's just gonna bring the story down at all times?
Kind
And
of.
at first, he kind of did, but it only took like a chapter for Arthur to start breaking that shell and
Mhm.
realize, hey, this kid's like really cool.
Dude,
And
Horatio's a real one. Ride or die for real.
So, so Ray said when I was getting to that part, I was like, "Oh boy, here comes Horatio! Can't wait." Ray's like, "You'll like Horatio. It's you." And yeah, Horatio is me. So if any character in this book is me in personality, it's Horatio, and if any character in this book is Ray, it's Brixby.
Yep. All right. Before we close out, I want to talk about the dragons. This is the Dragon Podcast. Let's talk about the dragons.
Yeah,
So to start, out of every named dragon, besides Brixby because he's the main character, so out of every named dragon, which one's your favorite?
Brixby.
I said besides him because he's the main
Oh,
character.
besides him,
Yep.
Doshi.
Yeah.
So Doshi is a silver dragon that shows up kind of just as a bit part to kind of show off what silver dragons are capable of doing.
Yeah, it's to show the reader that silver dragons can sniff out card magic, so
Can
Arthur
sniff
now
out
knows
card
he's got
magic.
to hide from silver dragons.
Yeah, so Arthur hides from the silver dragon and he goes to go wash off his clothes by a stream, and Doshi astral projects himself like a ghostly form of himself, and he goes, "Why are you running from me?" And Arthur's like, "Oh shit!" He goes, "Are you trying to hide that legendary card?" Or
Please, he's like, please don't tell anyone.
please don't tell anyone. He goes, "Okay, I won't." And then
But I'm gonna hang out here because you smell nice.
yeah, because to silver dragons, it is just an unbelievably wonderful smell, and so Arthur's basically bathing naked in a river, and Doshi is just sitting like a cat on the
Big
opposite
silver
shore
dragon just
watching
loafing over
him,
there watching.
like just because he likes being around him. And it's like those people that have that aura where cats will gather around them because they feel safe around them or whatever. I like Doshi out of all of them. I didn't like Tess because she's
But Tess
basically
caught
just
boy.
yeah. I don't
Tess
like
caught
Tess.
boy.
I
Yeah,
don't like her.
to finally acknowledge the asterisk I put on dragons are intelligent at the very beginning of this episode. Their intelligence varies. Seems to be based on their tier of cards they have in their core being. So, like, the commons are probably really, really dumb, which seems to be most of the purples.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
basically they have the intelligence of a house pet, like a
if you
dog.
gave the dog ability to talk, right?
Yeah.
The uncommons are just like kind of just slow people. Like shit. What's the other silver's name?
Uh,
Not Mackenzie. It's Kenzie and Marcel.
Marcel, I think. I told you to write these names down.
I know. We should write names down next time. But yeah, she's like just talks like a person who's a little slow, right?
A little slow, yeah.
You have a good card. I can smell it,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
And then the rare dragons are basically just people, maybe slightly smarter, because like Sam's is like real dignified sounding, and Doshi was also really dignified sounding, right? And then the legendaries are supposed to be, I don't know. We don't really interact with legendaries very much.
yeah, and as far as mythics are
We
highly
only get
intelligent. They're
Long Bai, who is so ethereal and enigmatic that you really can't get a feel for her personality.
Yeah, she just seems aloof about everything in general because I guess if you're a mythic dragon, you're so above everything else
Nothing can
that
hurt
you
you.
just don't care. And
Yeah.
so we didn't really get a lot of character from Lungbai, but she did really generally just seem like if anyone was really in charge of the kingdom, it was her.
Yeah.
Because every time the king would have a brain fart, she'd just remind him, or she'd just say whatever she wanted, and the king would be like, "Yeah, yeah, that," you know.
It's a little weird. There are a couple of things about her that I don't fully understand. One was she keeps calling the king like my love, or something like that. I'm like, are they like? Is that like I love you in the same sense like how I could like love a brother or a really close friend, or is it like are they
They're
actually like?
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. I
She
ship it.
she she fucked the brains out of him.
And the other thing is, I wonder. I feel like she's in charge, right? It
Yeah,
could be that the mythic dragons are doing this to their riders, the kings, on purpose because they want to pull all the shots. The kings are just they're puppet kings, and the reason for that is because we
ooh,
know
that's a
how
good.
you
That's
know
an
how
interesting
humans
theory.
react. If humans knew that the dragon was in charge, they'd probably revolt. They'd be like, "We need to put this thing down. No dragon can rule over humans. It must be a human ruling over humans." And so I'm wondering if these kings are all puppet kings.
That
In
is
which
a
case,
very
what are the
interesting
dragons
theory.
going for?
Yeah,
Because she definitely made all the decisions. She decided that Arthur gets to live, and so pulled all the strings to like have the king like give it up and whatnot, right?
yeah, that is true. Interesting.
Interesting.
Interesting. So yeah, as far as all the dragons, I think I like Doshi the most. Listening to it on a faster speed, I swear to God that when they first introduced it, I thought he said douchey. And I went, "You named your dragon douchey?" I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And then when I paused it and asked Ray, and he's like, "Do you mean Doshi?" I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked out of all the dragons that aside from Brixby, I like Doshi
Mm.
the most.
Yeah, Doshi is pretty cool. He's definitely acts like how I imagine dragons should act. Very elegant and dignified and whatnot. Though I do still like the tutorial level red, we'll call him, just because he seemed kind of arrogant, very like I'm gonna fucking destroy you all, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I need to see what more of his deal is. Bantam,
Yes.
what about all the baby dragons?
Oh my God, the baby dragons kill like the baby dragons hurt my soul. So
Yeah.
yeah, they when baby dragons are hatched, in the nursery, they bring prospective dragon riders. Anybody who has a card is eligible. Anybody,
Mm-hmm.
and so just picturing like the author didn't do a very good job of describing the awful scene that happened in my head during these scenes because the author described that the dragons basically run up to the fence. Imagine like a baby gate, you know, just like a
Mm-hmm.
little gate that's meant to keep small dogs out of the living room or something. And they all run up to the gate and they all desperately show off their cards, hoping that the human picks them. And the human's like, I want this one. And it's like the disappointment and heartbreak that the other ones must experience. Oh, it hurt my soul. And it wasn't even described in the book. Because like they even said that the dragons basically run up and then go, oh no, never mind. And
Yeah.
they go back
So
to playing.
yeah, so the baby dragons. So apparently, there's more common and uncommon question mark dragons than there are people willing to ride them. So if a dragon hatches and there's no one immediately there to bind with it, they get put into a nursery, which I'm sure they could for very well, but it's still such a sad. It's like how they can a dog at like a PetSmart or something, right? Can be cared for very well, but it's still sad because it has no family, right?
Yeah.
So we got like these pens of little dragons. They were playing around. They're playing King of the Hill with an upturned bucket, or a tug of war with a torn blanket. There's like stuffed animals and other toys in the pens. Some of the older ones that are a bit more intelligent because they're either older or they're uncommon rather than just common, they get really simple board games and whatnot.
Or
So
coloring
they
books, or
so they get tons of stuff. They're very well taken care of. I do wish that the torn blanket would be replaced with a real blanket, like a fully a new blanket, let's say, because
or give them something that's like a rawhide blanket that's like tougher.
a knotted rope or something, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I want them to be taken more care, but that's because I have a weak spot for hatchlings.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're all in there. Somebody comes into the not into the enclosure, but into the room that has all the enclosures, and they all like like look up, and they'll like give a quick sniff, and if it doesn't have a card of their rarity or let's just call it element, I guess, or their element, then they're like, never mind, and go back to doing whatever. But like if it's a prospective match, they run up to the gate and they're like, come here, come, pick me, and it's like, it's so sad. There's like one scene where a couple of common dragons were like showing off their cards to like a little farmer's son that came in or whatever, and like 2 pens down, there's an uncommon dragon that's like, no, how dare you, and like jumps the fence, pushes them out of the way, and it's like, here's my card.
Yeah, that one kind of hurt my feelings because like only because like
the other two, you're like,
because like he had to wait his turn, and he didn't wait his turn, and he got rewarded for it. Like it pissed me off.
it was a better match.
I don't care. Like that poor fucking dragon. And Ray doomed me that if we lived in this world, I would be working in the dragon nursery taking care of the babies.
You're working in the dragon nursery,
and I would not be able to handle it. I wouldn't, because my heart would break for every dragon that didn't get picked, and then my heart would break for every dragon that did get picked, because like I'd consider all of them to be my dragon. It hurt my soul because babies are precious when they're dragons or not human. Specifically when they're not human. Like if it was like a baby gnoll or a baby kobold, I'd love it just as much. Just don't care about human babies.
Because they're squishy and loud.
They're squishy and loud, and they can't be reasoned with. I'm fine with not being able to reason with things, but...
Yeah. Oh, I did write it down. The other silver dragon's called Martine.
Martine.
Yeah, because another one I noticed here is the one scene when they bring Arthur back to their apartment, and she's like, gotta move up to a bigger one soon, or she won't be able to fit through the door. And Martine is like curling up to take a nap on like a pad of straw. I'm like, that's first off adorable, and secondly very sad, right? Because once you start applying intelligence to dragons, I feel like they should have more than just a straw bed, like a like straw pot on the floor, like at least a cushion or something, right?
Yeah.
And so it just made me feel like, they're so poor because they haven't gotten any recruits for the hive yet. Arthur's their first one, but she only has straw to lay on. Right? It's like, I don't know. But the whole concept of a hive is pretty cool. I think that's mostly it.
Nope, there's one last thing.
Yeah?
Treesenix, our elite guard, has asked, what core card would we put in our hearts if we were in this unit? Like, if we had our choice of one card. I'm assuming the stipulation is that it can't be mythic, but it can be anything else. Like, we're just going to assume legendary at this point. Like, if you could pick whatever card, what would it be?
Honestly,
one major power.
Honestly, mine would probably actually be the titular card, the Master of Skills, or something like that. Because me, personally, I like when there's like room for growth. Like, you could just have a strong card and just be strong out the gate. I like the idea of having a blank slate card that like gets stronger over time as you add to it or unlock other aspects of it. The leveling up aspect of, especially like the Master of Body card, the fact that as it levels up, you actually get stat points, right? It would be one of those. It would probably be Master of Body or Master of Magic, because I like magic in general.
Yeah.
Master of Body at least gives me the stat points, which is another aspect of growing. And it's very open-ended in the sense that you can do anything, right? Like, it's really cool to be like, oh, I really like lightning power, so I would have a rare lightning card, so I can just, like, summon lightning bolts and control the storm and whatnot. But, like, because in reality, I personally change my mind a lot and or just like to mix things up, like, it rears its ugly head in RPG games, where I'll play halfway through the game and be like, you know what, let's start over and do Fort Joy again, where I tried this other build.
Oh no,
right?
not Fort Joy!
Yeah.
No!
So I do like the idea of a card that is very broad and lets me do more than just one thing, which a lot of these Master of X cards seem to do.
So my
Otherwise, I
card,
have a shapeshifting card. I can turn in, like, Druid Wild Shape, just turn into whatever I want.
yeah. Treecenix did specify that it could be mythic, so I'm gonna have a mythic card that makes me
The God card.
No, here's the thing. I think this is balanced. I would be completely invulnerable to all forms of attack. Physical, mental, magical. That's it. I'm not skilled in anything else. I'm not able to do anything. I can't cast any magic. I am just untouchable. That's it. That's what I would want.
I guess. I was going to assign you the rare card of being able to summon weapons and armor at, like, a moment's notice.
No, because I can get that stuff later, but I got to survive long enough to earn those. So literally just being impervious to all forms of attack. Magic doesn't work on me. Truth seeking doesn't work on me. Like,
The thing is, I don't feel like that's balanced. It needs to have, like, a time limit or something.
Nope. Forever. It's a mythic card. Mythic cards can be whatever the fuck I want.
We need to see an example of a mythic card.
Yeah. But the next time we get to see a mythic card used, I may have to refine my answer. But that's what I would want. If I could choose anything...
I'll get the mythic card that Long Bai has that just negates all card powers around me. So there goes your vulnerability. Goodbye.
No, but my card specifically says that any card can't be used on me. So your card can't be used on me. I would love to see.
Negates you.
If we get too close to each other, the universe implodes.
Yeah. The thing is, we'll see if I cut this part out, because honestly, I might just have a nullification card like Long Bai did, considering the joke I always give of, oh yeah, you're a dragon who doesn't digest, or a prey thing that can, like, where, nope, I negate it. Goodbye. Screw you, Jakor.
But yeah, that's my that would be my desired power. And if we find out that mythics don't work that way, then I pre-amend my answer on that caveat of a legendary card that lets me summon any weapon or armor at any time.
And become immediately proficient.
And immediately proficient. So, like, I'm just walking out in, like, jeans and a t-shirt, and someone's like, I smell a legendary card. Let's get them, boys. And I'm just like, in the blink of an eye, I'm wearing full plate mail with, like, a greatsword. And I'm immediately super proficient. You ever see that? Anyone who has seen the Elder Scrolls Online trailer where the one dude in plate mail with the greatsword just fucking bodies a 3-person team? That's basically what I want to be.
Okay. We are approaching 2 hours, so let's wrap this up really fast. I have a couple of fun questions I want to ask you. Okay. The first one is, if you were Arthur, at what point would you have deviated from the story? For example, you said you'd probably have killed Penn in the forest. Is that the soonest? Or would you have screwed up the story much earlier?
I probably would have screwed up the story much earlier. I would have... I would have stolen all the cards out of Second's cart and fucked off. And made a run for it.
All right.
Because he had a full set, didn't he?
He did. It was a full
he had a full common set of cards, but it still, at that point, would have become an uncommon that would have been powerful because it ascended.
Yeah. But yeah.
And if not then definitely I would have killed Penn.
Any predictions or hopes for the future for Book 3 that we're going to dive into later tonight at work?
My one prediction is that Penn and the Mind Singer are going to team up to try to kill Arthur. And I think that actually might be the catalyst as to why Arthur has to leave.
Okay. I hope he doesn't have to leave. I hope he gets to stay at the Hive, because I do want to see him train and learn to be a Hive leader. I want to see him step into the role of being nobility and getting to boss people around. I like seeing people be deferent to him and to Brixby. Like a really, really, really small scene, but one that I loved is when he's getting food from the cafeteria, or whatever, the bowls of soup for him and Brixby, and he walks up to the guy who's carving melons or whatever, and then uh, the employee, we'll call him the employee, looks up, sees Brixby, and immediately goes pale and is like, what? How can I help you, sir? Whatever, right? Like such a small scene, but I love it. I love. That's the kind of like interaction between nobility and common folk I want in my power fantasy, specifically my power fantasy. I understand in real life that is harsh and unfair and would get tiring really fast, but in my power fantasies, love that shit. But as far as like my predictions for the next book, next 2 or 3 books, I don't know, because like book 4 is apparently coming out in August, at least the Audible version. Obviously,
Yeah,
the print
they
version
don't
comes
even
out.
have a cover yet for it.
No, but the fact that it's announced means it's either it's done and just waiting to be released, or it's really close to being done. Like we're talking about, like a final editing pass. So there's at least 2 more books. There might be more. We'll see. But my hopes and dreams slash predictions. Arthur will eventually ascend to Mythic. He will have to fight some big evil bad, whether it's going to be a Scourge god or it's going to be Long Bai because she is pulling some puppet king strings or whatever. It's going to be him ascending and then him eventually becoming king of all the land or whatever. But I much more
Yeah.
smaller goal. He's going to collect the set. It's going to happen.
Oh, obviously. My prediction is a lot more just focused on the next book, because if I expand my prediction, I kind of am almost willing to put money on it. He's going to escape his dad outside of this kingdom, which is why he goes to the other hive. He
That
puts
would be
his dad
nice.
there.
Yeah.
And because his dad is really the only thing he has to protect now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Penn doesn't know anything about Horatio or Cassida or whatever. So he needs to protect his dad. So he's gonna Penn is gonna come back with the Mind Singer and probably some new powers, and he's gonna actually be a threat, especially with the Master of Combat card. And so he's going to get his dad, and he's going to escape to this other kingdom to lay low for a while. That's
I
my
hope Penn
prediction.
doesn't come back this soon because Arthur can't stand up to him yet. He needs like his own combat power or something. He needs to go find the Master of Magic card before he can fight Penn with the Master for the Master of Combat, like something like that, right? If Penn comes back too soon, it's gonna be a struggle, and I don't want it to struggle because I just want this to be a power fantasy. So I hope he
Well,
doesn't come back this soon.
even during the duels, Arthur eventually started overpowering because Penn
He,
probably hasn't been working on his skills. He's
yeah, but
got
the
the
thing
Master
is,
of Combat card and he's full of himself now.
I feel like that whole scene was a very bad example because he never overpowered. He got a couple lucky shots in, but again, that's only because Penn was playing with him from the beginning. Like if they were both going all out, which Penn would be now, he's pissed. Arthur was dead in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, he never really tried
yeah,
to deal a lethal blow. He just tried to
yeah.
beat the shit out of him. All right, yeah, that's
My
true.
my predictions immediately for book 3 and book 3 alone, it's gonna be filler. People who've read Wings of Fire, it's gonna be book 14 basically. It's gonna be filler. It's gonna be used just to build, just to lore dump and give us more information on the world outside his kingdom and the Scourge as a whole. But it's gonna be mostly filler and lore dump, which I'm completely for, but we'll see. All right. I think that's everything we need to talk about right now. Let's close out real fast. We've got 2 minutes till 2 hours. Oh no, Bantam, quick! Where can they find us?
All right. So you can find us at patreon.com/World of Dragons podcast. If you would like to email the show, our email is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com, and we will have a Discord linked in the show notes.
Yep. Discord's the best way to get in contact with us. Email. We love receiving emails, and they're relatively simple, I guess. Like they don't require you to come out of your anti-social shell. But yeah, if you want to suggest anything for us, if you've written something you'd like us to cover, since apparently a lot of people want us to cover stuff for them, or if you just want to argue something that we've talked about here, like, oh no, you guys are wrong because of this reason, those are where you can how you can contact us. And yeah, so next episode we're doing book 3. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be amazing. We're looking forward to it.
Yep.
Remember, kids, this is the first time Bantam has been dying to start a book.
Yeah. In fact, you already got it, right?
Basically, so it's not. I can get it. Don't worry. I have a credit, so it's fine.
Okay, get it.
It's not like I can't afford it or anything.
Get it.
Get it. After we get food.
Yeah.
All right. So again, thank you for coming, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Hold on, real quick, Taryn. Real quick correction. I am not really enthusiastic for reading this year. I'm really enthusiastic for reading this book series.
Now he was talking about between this book and The Conjuring of Zoth Avrix that it's been just a really good year for Bantam books.
Yeah.
Compared to
yes, the other Zoth Avrix. It's not another Zoth Avrix book. It's written by the same guy. But it did come in. I haven't read it yet because
reading.
I'm late. Reading. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye. Oh, next week we're doing Dragon Island. Bye. Or no.
No, we're doing book 3. You full.
Book 3. I'm stupid.
Yeah, you are.
All right, bye.
Goodbye.